is about all about the small vowel, or you can say duodenum per se. Actually, this was expected. Is the presentation visible? Just tell me, Vinita.
No.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
There's some problem with my.
I showed the presentation. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Yes.
Okay. So I think then now I can start. So this is
Yes.
all about, this is actually the portion of the webinar that was expected to be completed in last webinar only. But as it was
Sir, echo are
sorry.
lock echo are coming.
I just
Echoing.
I think my voice is echoing.
No, your voice is fine.
Okay.
Rupesh, you can continue. Your voice is fine.
Okay, fine. So we, with the small vowel, and that too particularly duodenum was pending. So we will be covering this. So this will be a short topic than the usual webinars of ours. So I think you will not get that much bored. Okay. So as usual, to have approach to any of the GI biopsy or any of the biopsies or any of the specimen, we should know the normal histology first. So if we see duodenum, this is a brush bordered epithelium. This will be comprising two parts of the mucosa, that is villi and the crypt. As this is the absorbed portion of colon or bowel, this will be having long villi and the shorter crypt. So the normal ratio of crypt to villus is 1:3, or that means villi is longer and crypt will be shorter. So when we approach a biopsy, this proportion or this ratio of crypt to villus is to be determined. So this is the normal villus, which is lined by brush bordered columnar mucinous epithelium, which contains the goblet cell, the characteristics of the bowel epithelium. And if you see the crypt, they will have the regenerating enterocytes. This regeneration will form the villi, and they will also contain two types of other cells, that is Paneth cell and endocrine cell. The Paneth cell, the cytoplasmic granules, they will be facing towards lumen, and enteroendocrine cell, the granules of the cytoplasm is facing towards basement membrane. So while we see or while we approach duodenum biopsy for reporting, which all constituents should be seen. First is crypt to villus ratio. While you see the crypt to villus ratio, which is expected to be 1:3 or 1:5 to say it is normal, you are also expected to see the tip of villi or the constituents of the villus, or that is the surface epithelium. Because many a times when the biopsy overall looks normal, you have to see for some pathologies which will be present when the overall biopsy is normal, like the organism. With normal looking duodenum, you can get the organism or infections with the giardiasis, pyrochates or cryptosporidiasis, because overall contour of biopsy, the constituents of biopsy, duodenum constituents, everything will be normal. Then you should also look for the tip of villi. The purpose to look after the tip of villi will be whether there is any metaplasia, because we know as a response to any of the insult, the first response will be metaplasia. So you can get foveolar metaplasia, and tip of villi are also important to look for the increase, whether there is increase in intraepithelial lymphocytes. By convention, 6 to 10 IELs are said to be normal. If they are more than 20, they are said to be abnormal, and their significance rises when they are more than 30 or more than 40 per 100 enterocytes. The intraepithelial lymphocytes to be counted per 100 enterocytes. So that is about the villus. Then you should also see for the lamina propria. Lamina propria constituents will be the inflammatory cells, lymphocytes or plasma cells, vessels, and stroma. Stroma, that is the basement membrane of surface epithelium, and the stroma of lamina propria. These all constituents should be looked after, whether they are present, and if they are present, whether they are normally present. Because if you say about the inflammatory cells, their presence or absence should will give you the hint of the pathology. Like if the plasma cells are absent, it is high possibility that we are dealing with CVID, that is common variable immune deficiency syndrome. If there is some problem with vessels like dilated lacteals or dilated lymphatics, it can be a case of lymphangiectasia. Or if there is increased collagen below the basement membrane of the surface epithelium, it can be a case of collagen. I think I have to mute everyone. There is background noise. Wait for disruption. Sorry for disruption. Okay. So that is about the lamina propria constituents. Then the Brunner glands. Brunner glands, normally they are present in the submucosa, but in D1, that is the first part of duodenum, they can be seen in lamina propria. If it is a part of second part of duodenum and you are getting Brunner gland, that to Brunner gland hyperplasia in lamina propria, it is pathological, and then you should search for the other findings. Then whether the other constituents or other normally expected cells they are present or not, like the goblet cells or Paneth cells. If those are absent, that means it is something like the autoimmune enteritis, where the circulating enterocytes they are destructing the cells. That's why you may not be getting normally expected goblet cells or Paneth cells. Then after that, as we are Indians and we are practicing in Indian continent, the presence or absence of granuloma that has to be mentioned, and also the presence or absence of parasite. So the one part to be remembered, when we judge for the cryptovillus ratio, it is said that cryptovillus ratio should not be judged over the lymphoid follicles, because of presence of lymphoid follicles, there will be the stretching of villus and it will be flattened or will not be having the expected length. So if the lymphoid follicle is present, villus length or villus atrophy should not be evaluated at that place. Even the intraepithelial lymphocytes should not be counted where above the lymphoid follicles. These are few things to be remembered. So just to summarize, these 6 points to be seen while you approach for the duodenal biopsy: cryptovillus ratio, intraepithelial lymphocytes, lamina propria, then the presence of normal structures like Brunner glands, normal cells like goblet or Paneth cells, or any other foreign contents like granuloma or parasite. So just to show some cases, just as a pictorial example, so these are the cryptosporidium. You will see they are lining the mucosal epithelium of the crypt. The small dots or small spores of cryptosporidium. The tip of villi having the brush bordered epithelium, it is strongly eosinophilic and pass positive. But see here, this is basophilic. The villus tip or the brush border of villus tip is basophilic. This is because it is the pyropetal inflammation. Many times this can be evaluated with bare eyes on HE, but sometimes you need silvery stain to highlight it properly. Or even the other parasites like strongyloids can be seen. So these are some parasites that you should be remembering or you should have in mind while approaching the duodenum. So when we deal about the duodenal biopsies, the most of the duodenal biopsies, they are done in view of malabsorption. So what is malabsorption? When a clinician suspects it to be a case of malabsorption, that time patients present with symptoms like diarrhea, increased stool frequency, fat loss through the stool, that is steatorrhea, weight loss, can be nutritional deficiencies as the absorption is not taking place normally, and the long-standing effects like infertility or short stature because of continued nutritional deficiency. So in such cases, when patient presents with the among from these symptoms, the biopsy is performed to confirm or to rule out whether this is because of malabsorption or just a trivial symptom. So when such biopsies come, what the features we should look after to say whether that is actually a case of malabsorption. For us, three features are important: whether the intraepithelial lymphocytes are increased, that is, are they more than 30? Older articles says the significant count is more than 40, but newer articles now they have established that more than 30 intraepithelial lymphocytes, they become significant. And whether this is a tip heavy inflammation, that is, the most of the lymphocytes whichever are increased in number, they will be present towards the tip. That means they make a pattern of descendo pattern, like the more of the lymphocytes will be present towards the tip than the base. Along with that, villus blunting and crypt hyperplasia. In initial days of malabsorption, the crypt hyperplasia will adjust the overall villus blunting. There will be the more and more regeneration of the enterocyte, and they will make up for the villus blunting. So the first feature that you will see in the initial days of malabsorption will be the crypt hyperplasia. They will somehow try to maintain the overall length of the mucosa. As this will be compromised, there will be villus blunting, and along with that, intraepithelial lymphocytes, increased intraepithelial lymphocytes. So how you should approach a case of malabsorption? So this is overall a algorithmic pattern. Just want to make sure is presentation is going smoothly. Everyone is able to see, na? I just give me a confirmation because I won't be knowing
Yes.
properly. Okay,
Yes.
fine. So okay, so when you get a small intestine, you have to see whether it is normal, inflammatory, or neoplastic. Neoplastic part we will put aside. It is not our business today. So in inflammatory, whether the mucosa is flat, means no villus, only cryptic mucosa, or there is partial preservation of villi. So when there is a flat colonic type of mucosa, the most probable possibilities will be celiac disease, autoimmune enteropathy, collagenous sprue, IBD. Obviously, the other factors or other findings also is to be evaluated before judging before coming to a conclusion whether it is a case of IBD sprue or autoimmune enteropathy. Like in autoimmune enteropathy, you will see absence of goblet cells or Paneth cells, like that. And in IBD, there will be crypt architectural disturbance. And then if there is a partial or complete preservation of villi, according to predominant cell type, there will be many possibilities. And you see almost every disease is included according to the predominant cell type. Like if there are more of the eosinophils, you will see it will be eosinophilic gastroenteritis or any parasitic infection. If there is then lamina propria infiltrate, you will see if there is lymphoplasmacytic infiltrate, the possibilities will be like Whipple melanosis, or if it is a post-inflammatory lamina propria, the possibilities can be some infections or immunodeficiency. So I will show you a slide. So before going to this, let us see one case. Give me a minute, please. Okay. So can you see a list as labeled as sample list here? Is it visible?
No, that
No, sir.
slide with malabsorption pattern
No.
only, that is.
Okay. Can you see a microscope now?
No.
No,
No.
no, we can't see.
एक मिनट हाँ. Now, is it visible now?
Yes, we can see. Yes, yes.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay, so this is a duodenal biopsy. These are the duodenal beads. We will be expecting long villi and short strips to say it is normal. But now see here, this looks like as if it is a biopsy of colon. Okay, I think my marker is visible now.
Yes, it is visible.
Here you can see few of the villi are there, but still they are broad. Normal it would have been a normal biopsy, and say it should be like normal. Normal.
Someone is unmuted. Please mute yourselves. We are getting disturbance.
So this is like the broadening of villi or the flattening of villi. If it is at least if it is not complete absence of villi, and there is variable flattening or the atrophy of villi. Now see here, it is almost like having just crypt, and this is having the flattening of the villi. So obviously, it says us that there is something pathology. Then we will look for the tip. We will first see the tip wherever villi are preserved. I will go on high power here. Now at the highest power, just suppose you are counting 100 enterocytes. Take any of one villus tip and just count the 100 enterocytes and then count the lymphocytes per 100 enterocytes. I think at least in this villus, you can clearly see lymphocytes are too many high. The proper enterocytes cannot be easily visualized because there is too many heavy inflammation of the lymphocytes. Now you see these all small nuclei are of the lymphocytes. You can see most of the lymphocytes are concentrated at the tip. And if you go towards the base of villus, there is decrease of the lymphocytes. That means it is a tip-heavy inflammation. This is one thing that we have to evaluate when evaluating for Malak pattern, the tip-heavy inflammation of intraepithelial lymphocytes. So the three features are there: villus atrophy, crypt hyperplasia, and intraepithelial lymphocytes. So, what should be the diagnosis? Anyone please unmute and you can tell what diagnosis you will give for such cases. If answer is quick, I can move forward.
Celiac disease.
Sorry?
Celiac disease, sir.
Okay, so there is no any other possibility?
Tropical sprue.
Tropical sprue.
Sorry?
Tropical sprue.
Okay, tropical sprue. So can you diagnose tropical sprue through this biopsy, or you want to have some more information?
There should be protein losing enteropathy.
Okay, may I know the name? Who is speaking with me? Your name, please.
Nidhi.
Okay, Dr. Nidhi, we will just discuss as one-to-one conversation, so that there will be not much disturbance with other people. What possibilities you think when you get such biopsy? Celiac disease, right? Any
If
other
it is
possibility? You said tropical sprue. Anything else?
so according to age, then if it is a young person, it's celiac disease.
Okay, fine. So what I want to actually say is when we get such biopsy, when our impression should be duodenal biopsy showing the features of malabsorption, because malabsorption never always means celiac disease. All that is malabsorption is not the celiac disease. There are too many possibilities. So this is telling us it is just a case of malabsorption. Okay. The other factors need to also be evaluated, like the clinical feature, because because there are n number of possibilities or n number of pathologies which will show you this pattern. That is the pattern of malabsorption. So on the biopsy, the report or the impression line should be like the malabsorption pattern, like the duodenal biopsy showing features of malabsorption pattern, and never ever say directly any case like the celiac disease, because celiac disease, I can say this is just the tip of iceberg, where iceberg will be containing all other possibilities of malabsorption. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Sir, how do we count 100 enterocytes like it is of more than 30 lymphocytes in 100 enterocytes?
for
So,
that thing,
how,
go to high power and take any of the villus tips. Okay. And
okay.
suppose, okay, I will show you. Wait, huh? So this is one of the tip, right?
Yes.
So this is the center of the tip. You will go on one side to count 50 enterocytes, and on another side 50 enterocytes, and then just make that area in your mind. I am not even I don't count every time. This is just to make your initial habit.
Estimate.
Overall, to this level, you are getting 50 enterocytes, and the same on the other side. So in this much of the area, if you count the lymphocytes, see, at least you can make it. See, almost after every enterocyte, you are getting one lymphocyte, right? See, this is the
Yes,
enterocyte
sir.
that is about. This is the lymphocyte. So if you are counting 100 enterocytes, that means at least there are at least 70 intraepithelial lymphocytes, right? So
Yes.
that is more than 40 or at least more than 30. Okay.
Okay, sir.
You
Thank
have to
you.
count 5 tips and then make the average. But even if you go with your habit, even if you evaluate only 2 tips, you can easily evaluate for yourself. There is definitely increase in IEM. Fine. So this
Okay,
will
sir.
be of the IL. Now I just want to show one more case just to make all you sure how you will evaluate whether malabsorption is present or not. Now see here, again the variability of the villus abnormality or villus atrophy. Now see here, so much broad villus, crypts are so much hypertrophied, means crypts are longer than the villus, and in the other bit, villi are having the normal length. So there is variable atrophic pattern. So when it is variable, the differential becomes very broad. It's not just celiac disease. So moving to our presentation. Is PPT is visible now?
No, sir.
Great. Sorry for that, even I am also new for this team. I think it is visible now, right?
Yes, your screen is visible.
Okay, fine. So when we say malabsorption pattern, these are most of the conditions. Like it can be due to medication. Even medication can show you such pattern. A reactive duodenopathy. The reactive duodenopathy is a kind of reaction of duodenum to the gastric pathology. It can be because of bacterial overgrowth. It can be in celiac disease.
Sir, your screen is not visible.
Can you see the PPT or not?
Sir, it is showing some ad of mirroring 360.
Okay, fine. Great.
Screen is visible.
It's visible, na?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, fine. So other possibilities like tropical sprue. To say something as tropical sprue, you also have to evaluate the ileal biopsy, not just duodenal biopsy, because it is a diffuse pathology. And like CVID, common variable immunodeficiency, autoimmune enteropathy, and even the collagenous sprue. So these are most of the possibilities where you will see get the similar malabsorption pattern. So it is not always celiac disease. So in cases of malabsorption pattern, so few of the examples or few of the conditions where malabsorption pattern can be seen is the medication, and in medication, NSAIDs is the most common culprit. It is said that if you cannot give a probable etiology, you can every time blame NSAID for the malabsorption because they show a non-specific mild absorption injury. But the one thing, the severe diffuse blunting or the complete villus atrophy is never seen. It will be a variable villus blunting and the other features of malabsorption. In some cases, if there is repeated cycles of mucosal ulcer, so after ulcer, scarring will develop and it will develop a characteristic finding that is diaphragm disease. So see, this is a one specimen of terminal ileal resection. You can see this part is somewhat congested than this part. Then there is kinking of the serosa. Okay, it's not complete stricture, just deepening inside. The kinking, you can say this, and when you open this, you can see the bridging diaphragm that is trying to bridge one side of the mucosa to other side. Okay, so this is kinking seen on the mucosal aspect. So how the microscope is seen? This will be like this. The repeated scarring or repeated fibrosis will cause the elevation of mucosa over it, and this is the tip showing the mucosal ulcer. So this is like a diaphragm where the muscular layer or the lamina propria is elevated towards the mucosa, forming the bridge. This is bridge. So this is one of the possibilities. So when you get a case of malabsorption, your comment is more important than impression. Impression will be like malabsorption pattern, and then you have to evaluate whether other possibilities can be there. If all other possibilities are being ruled out, then you will think of celiac disease or stroke. So first and most common will be medication. Then it will be small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. This is the most important, I will say, the cause of malabsorption, because this is completely treatable entity. This is because of anaerobic bacterial inflammation, and if this can be diagnosed, the gold standard investigation will be the duodenal aspirate culture. On that culture, the growth will be evaluated whether the growth is more than 1 lakh bacteria per ml. And if it is been diagnosed, it is very much treatable condition of SIBO. So before labeling something as celiac disease, these two things have to be evaluated because they are completely treatable. And celiac disease, just make in mind, it is a lifelong condition where you have to take care of the symptoms for whole of the life. Then the other condition is reactive duodenopathy. The reactive duodenopathy is because of chronic exposure of acid. When there is H. pylori gastritis, there will be chronic acid production, and it will cause the reactive duodenopathy along with its insult in the stomach. There can be gastric heterotopia, and that gastric heterotopia is secreting much acid in the duodenum. In such cases, duodenal bulk, that is the first part of duodenum, is predominantly involved. It will show you increased plasma cell infiltrate, and along with that, you will also see neutrophils within the lamina propria or within the surface epithelium, apart from the intraepithelial lymphocytes. Villus blunting is expected. The gastric foveolar metaplasia is very good sign or very good finding for the reactive duodenopathy, and there will be Brunner gland hyperplasia. Just to show one example, is my screen visible? Microscope screen. You just have to give me confirmation every time.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay. So again, we will also evaluate this biopsy in same way. The cryptovillus ratio. Now here you see there is somewhat blunting and crypt hyperplasia. That means there is some pathology. Then if you go on high power, you can, so this is Brunner gland, and you are able to see Brunner gland present in the lamina propria. Okay, so there is Brunner gland hyperplasia, and they are pathologically present or abnormally present within the lamina propria. You can see their major part is seen in the submucosa, below the muscularis, and even in the lamina propria. Okay, so other finding here you can easily get see. So this is foveolar metaplasia. See, this is the bowel epithelium. Will show you the regularly scattered goblet cells. But here you see the epithelium is forming the mucin cap throughout the mucosal length. The characteristic, this is gastric epithelium, or you can say foveolar metaplasia. So this is a characteristic finding in this case. And again, inflammation lamina propria is increased, gastric foveolar metaplasia, and Brunner gland hyperplasia. IELs are also increased. So with this finding, I am not completely ruling out any nutritional malabsorption pattern like celiac disease, but if you have features of gastric peptic disease, or you have known etiology of H. pylori gastritis, and you are getting these findings, this is high possibility this is reactive duodenopathy rather than any nutritional malabsorption pattern like celiac disease or tropical stroke. Just scrolling through the focus to show you the features of malabsorption. The crypt hyperplasia, villus broadening, villus blunting, and that way the foveolar metaplasia. So this is about reactive duodenopathy. And then comes the important entity in malabsorption, that is gluten sensitive enteropathy. Okay, so we are not labeling this directly as a celiac disease. It is actually to be ideally said, this is gluten sensitive enteropathy. This is an autoimmune disorder occurred in genetically susceptible host. The gluten rich diet, they will be sensitive for it, like the wheat, barley or rye. So to say someone as gluten sensitive enteropathy, the biopsy is not just the sufficient factor. Diagnostic requisites are clinical manifestations that the person will have the features of malabsorption like increased stool, steatorrhea, weight loss, and others when he is sensitized to gluten-rich diet. Then through evaluation, he will be having specific antibodies like CTG, EMA, endomysial antibodies. IgA antibodies are evaluated. And if a patient is patient is having IgA deficiency, then IgG, DGP antibodies evaluated. So this is very one of the gold standard investigation for this evaluation of gluten sensitive enteropathy. And along with that, HLA haplotype DQ2, DQ8. Almost 70 to 80% people will have DQ2 or DQ8 haplotype in cases of gluten sensitive enteropathy. And then the histological features means histological features of malabsorption, they are not essential for the diagnosis. A good gastroenterologist will label something as a GSE with the above three requisites, and histology will be the last part. It is just the additional tool and not the essential factor. Why, I will tell you later on. So if you get a case as to rule out or to evaluate for the celiac disease, our part is to grade the biopsy. Okay, so grading that we use is modified March system. Actually, this March system is not useful in diagnosis. Ideally, I never include the March grade when I evaluate a case of malabsorption. If it is a established patient of celiac disease, that means the other investigation have already been evaluated, like the sensitivity or the antibody evaluation. That time only I give the March system or March grading. Otherwise, I don't mention it as a routine practice in malabsorption, because that is useful in clinical assessment and not the diagnosis. So the only importance of diagnosis in such cases, if patient is on non-gluten diet, but he is not showing the improvement or is not showing the better symptoms, then the biopsy becomes useful whether to see whether it is a case of refractory stroke or if it is a case of lymphoma. That is enteropathy associated T-cell lymphoma. Otherwise, if a patient is definitely showing the symptoms of celiac disease, that is gluten sensitivity, the biopsy doesn't hold much importance, at least for diagnosis, I'm saying. So this is modified March grading system. Three factors are seen: whether there is increased intraepithelial lymphocytes, whether there is crypt hyperplasia, and whether villus atrophy. So March 1 becomes means the increased intraepithelial lymphocytes, that is, you can say infiltrative pattern, that is lymphocytes are infiltrated. Then in March and crypt hyperplasia, March 1 and March 2 forms the infiltrative pattern. March 3A, when there is starting of villus atrophy, it becomes the atrophic pattern. And March 3C, when there is complete villus atrophy, that is total loss of villus, it becomes a Corazza grade 2, or you can say when you can actually suspect with a high possibility of celiac disease. But you say crypt hyperplasia or villus atrophy is expected findings, but crypt architectural disturbance is never expected in celiac disease. If you see the crypt architectural disturbance, if you see the cryptitis and crypt abscess, the other possibilities have to be thought of, like the IBD or the Crohn's disease. So before that, I want to show you a case. Let us see what March grading we can give to this case. Is my slide visible? Hello, is slide visible?
Yes, sir.
So what findings you can tell me on this biopsy? How are the villi? How are the villi? Anyone can just unmute and discuss this case.
Yeah, broad.
Okay, right. They are broad. The crypt hyperplasia is evident. So obviously, IL increase, we will just evaluate it. This is the higher point to IL. You can see lymphocytes after every 3 or 4 enterocytes. Okay, so that means intraepithelial lymphocytes are increased with hyperplasia. Okay, I will show you the other bit for the villus flattening. See, here is villus flattening. Just evaluate these two bits and just tell me what March reading you can give.
Maybe
It would be
3B.
3C.
3B.
March reading too much. The only thing we can say, we can just confidently judge whether it is 3C, whether it is 3C or it is not 3C. For 3C, you will expect this complete atrophy or complete absence of villi. If somewhere you can see villi, like here, they are flat but not completely absent, or even here, the villus projection is present. So here you can grade this as a 3B. But again, I said this March grading to be used only if you know if this case is evaluated on the ground of celiac disease, like the other factors, the clinical features and antibody evaluation and the HLA haplotype. So this was a case of celiac disease actually with March grading of 3B. And now see this biopsy. This looks almost like this is a biopsy of colon. No villi anywhere. It's only the crypt, no villus projection, as if it is a biopsy of any colonic biopsy. So this was the ideal case of gluten sensitive enteropathy. This was a case of 8-year boy with increased frequency, steatorrhea, short stature. His antibodies were evaluated. It was increased. It was having the TTG antibodies and then the sensitivity to gluten diet. So in this case, when all features we were having with us along with the biopsy, we straight away labeled this as a case of celiac disease with March grading of 3C. Only in such cases you can use the word celiac disease or ideally gluten sensitive enteropathy in your report. So this is one of the disease with malabsorption pattern. So the what other diseases you have with this malabsorption pattern, they are non-gluten enteropathy, means there are other proteins in your diet to which you can develop a malabsorption pattern. That is the cow's milk. Tropical screw, where there is diffuse involvement, and for the diagnosis of tropical screw, you also need ideal biopsy, and ideal biopsy should also show the similar pattern of malabsorption. Then only you can label something as a tropical screw. Again, tropical screw is because of the bacterial inflammation. The other clinical finding you will also get, like the deficiency of vitamin B12 or deficiency of folic acid, as the ileum is involved. It can be in collagenous group. It can be in CVID, that is common variable immunodeficiency. In those cases, you will see the conspicuous absence of plasma cells. And malabsorption can be seen in autoimmune enteropathy because of circulating autoantibodies like anti-enterocyte antibodies. You will see the absence of goblet cells. So this is the case of collagenous screw. You see at the basement membrane of surface mucosa, there is increased collagen, thickened collagen band. You can also see the entrapped blood vessel in this with the entrapped fibroblast. This is a feature of increased collagen deposition in collagenous screw. You will get the entrapped vessel and entrapped fibroblast within this collagenous band. So many a times when the celiac disease is suspected, the treatment is given, but patient is not improving. The biopsies are again done to see whether patient has developed collagenous screw. In many of the cases of refractory screw, where patient doesn't improve on any of the treatment, the collagenous screw is many a times is the finding in cases of refractory screw. So I just want to show this figure to you. This is again a case of one of the case of malabsorption. Is biopsy properly visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Can anyone just discuss this biopsy here? Means what are you seeing? How are they villi? Anyone just discuss. Nothing much harmful in discussing. We can move forward to the next case. How is your evaluation of this biopsy? So we have discussed the steps of biopsy interpretation. You will see the villus, you will see the crypt, you will see the lamina propria.
Villi are blunted and there is architectural distortion.
Okay, fine.
And there is a mild increase in inflammatory infiltrate, and the lacteals are dilated.
Right. See, this is the lacteals, these are dilated.
Yes, and
So here you have to see for the lamina propria constituent when there is no much significant or separate finding in the villi or the crypt. Here the abnormality is in lamina propria. See, so many lacteals are dilated or so many lymphatics are dilated, right? So this is the case of lymphangiectasia. One more disease entity that will show you the malabsorption pattern. And the next case, this is again a case of malabsorption. How will you evaluate this biopsy? Just to go point wise. Anyone please?
will
Yes.
villus to crypt ratio is decreased,
Right.
and there is a lymphoid aggregates in lamina propria,
But
and there is increased It's blue looking biopsy, though there is mild increase in chronic inflammation
Right.
and maybe some giant cells, I'm not sure.
Okay, fine. They can be okay. Are you saying these like a giant cell?
I'm not sure. I think these are crypts, maybe.
These are the regenerating crypts. That's
Yeah,
the
these are crypts, yeah.
okay. The other peculiar finding, I will just show you the foci. See this crypt.
Cryptitis.
Okay. See this crypt. Okay. I will show you one more such crypt. See this crypt. What finding you are getting?
Uh, is it either apoptotic debris or cryptitis?
Yes, you are right. These are all apoptotic bodies. There is too much increased apoptosis. Okay.
Yes,
So when there is too much of apoptosis, this is something to related to some immune regulated disease or immune related disease, right? So
Yes.
if you see the lamina propria contents again, see whenever you will deal with the duodenum, na, you don't have to too much try to get the plasma cells. But here see, all these are lymphocytes. Plasma cells are not easily seen. When you see a biopsy of duodenum, plasma cells are very, very easily picked up. Okay. So when you get an increased apoptotic in any of your duodenal biopsies, the dictum is to look for the presence or absence of plasma cells. This is the case of CVID. If you can make out on this magnification, I don't know how clear it is. This is the most possible magnification. All these inflammatory cells are lymphocytes or macrophages, and plasma cells are conspicuously absent. And the other findings are the increased apoptosis. So this is the case of CVID. One more entity showing the malabsorption. So this was everything about malabsorption. Then last time we shared many of the cases. Now most of those digital cases, those were having the infection. This was the one more part that we wanted to cover in the last session, that is infection in GI tract. I will just go through all the digital cases first. Before that, I will show one more case. This is a case of esophageal biopsy. The upper part of esophagus or the initial third of esophagus at the level of rhipopharynx. Anyone want to discuss this case, please? This case I got recently, some 2 days back only. So I just thought I should show this. Anyone? So discussion is always good rather than I am just showing all the findings. Any peculiar finding you are getting through this biopsy?
Sir, some fibrinosuppurative exudate is there.
Right. So this is a case of esophageal ulcer, and as dictum in GI biopsy, always look much more carefully in the kachra or in the ulcer debris. Okay. So I am just showing you the ulcer fragment only. Any diagnostic thing you can pick it up, or anyone else if someone has picked up the diagnosis.
So this entamoeba.
See, this is esophageal biopsy.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah.
Anyone else? This is very characteristic. I don't know
Fungal infection.
properly. See this one. This one I am showing. 8 minutes. I just want to show the beat. Wait. This one. I will zoom it.
Infection is multinucleation and smudging of the nucleus.
Herpetic giant cells.
Sorry.
Herpes giant cells. Multinucleation.
So this is multinucleation and molding of nuclei and the margination of chromatin. The three M's of herpes epiphysetis. So this is the case of herpes epiphysetis. So just one message I wanted to give through this. Always look more carefully when you get some kachra. You will always get some pathology, be it a candida, be it HSV or even CME. Last webinar we showed you a case of cytomegalovirus and entamoeba. So that was the case of large bowel, and this is one HSV. The antibodies were evaluated and the IgM antibodies against HSV were raised. So this was the case of HSV esophagitis. I don't know how many of you gone through these cases. This was one more case where it was a case of esophageal biopsy. Here you can see the ulcer. Just compare with the adjacent esophageal biopsy. If you go deep in this ulcer bit, you will get some pathology. Now see here, you can see the proper nucleomegaly or the nuclear inclusion, as if it is a megalonucleus. Even here are the viral inclusions. So this was a case of CMV esophagitis. For CMV, you are always expected to see the endothelial cells or the macrophages in the lamina propria. The increased eosinophils in this biopsy should give you the hint there is some pathology you should look after. Even this is the viral inclusion. So this was a case of CMV esophagitis. Again, the same message, always look more carefully when you are getting some ulcer fragment or ulcer bit. Most of the time, you will get the pathology. The next case was so anyone want to discuss this case? The duodenal biopsy again. How is the architecture? Now again, if you see this biopsy properly, you can note the villi are very well oriented, no any alteration of the ratio. Even the lamina propria is properly seen. When such normal biopsy is being received, first rule out presence of parasite, whether before you say this is like an unremarkable duodenum. If you see the villus shape, you will get if you are lucky, you will get this giardiasis, the pear-shaped organism, not invading but just adhered to the surface epithelium. So this is the case of giardiasis. So even if a biopsy looks normal, always look for the organism. Okay, I will go for the next case. So this is again, I think this is a colonic biopsy. Looks normal. No as such crypt architectural distortion. normally fresh script. They are touching the muscularis, so no shortfall. But even if it is normal, you again have to look it more carefully. Now you see here, this is the brush border epithelium. This is actually basophilic, and normally the eosinophilic tinge is expected and not the basophilic. Okay, you can see the patches of basophilic brush border. Can everybody make it out? Please confirm.
Coccidioides.
Sorry.
Coccidioides.
Cryptosporidium.
This is the case of pyrophytosis. Actually, spores are not visible. The organism, they are as if they are replacing the brush border. See here, these are. If you see the Warthin, if you do Warthin study, they will be picked up. But I think in this case, Warthin study is not required. This is a classic case of pyrophytosis. I just selected these cases because these cases you do not get routinely. Even this case is not mine. I just picked from the website just to improve the cases and just to make our webinar complete. But as I assured you, once you see this finding, you will never forget it. Next time, whenever you will get this case, you will always pick it up. So this is the case of pyrophytosis. Normal looking biopsy with basophilic surface epithelium. Think of pyrophytosis. Then in this case, I am just giving you examples. When in initial webinar, I just gave you the points of the approach to the biopsy. Always see for the surface epithelium more carefully when it is looking normal. Always see more carefully in your ulcer, and again see for any lamina propria constituents. Now see here, this is characteristic finding. What are these?
Macrophages.
Right. So what is pathology?
Xanthoma.
Okay. Anything else we can?
Ripple's disease.
Yes.
Ripple's disease.
And or
Mycobacterium avium intercellulare.
MAC.
Mycobacterium. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. But in this case, there is one more finding you can see. This is like the macrophages, the aggregates of macrophages, and one more finding, that is dilated lacteal. Okay. So the difference between MAC and difference between Whipple is in Whipple you will get dilated lacteal like this, along with the aggregates of macrophages. So if you do pass, they will be brilliantly stained. So this is the case of Whipple disease, and this is the case of MAC. In MAC, you won't get the dilation of the lacteal. See, the same. Here is also aggregates or the sheets of macrophages expanding the lamina propria, but these MAC will never give you the dilated lacteal finding. So that is one differential factor. In case if you don't have the access to special stains, this dilated lacteal finding can help you to decide between MAC or Whipple. But if you have special stains with you, it is always advisable to go for. And in our case, what I think I shared the 12 cases in digital set. This one more case was there. This was the case of gastric biopsy. I just want to just cover those cases. Overall normal looking biopsy, but when biopsy looks normal, you also should give more attendance to your lamina propria. Now in this bit, if you see, this is like a thrombus. Okay, the fibrin within the vessel. This is thrombus. Actually, this was not so much easy case. But if you can pick such thrombus in your biopsy, think of some vascular pathology. This was a case of GAVE, that is gastric antral vascular ectasia. This case was selected only to have the look on the characteristic finding. Now you know this, you may not miss next time when you get this case. And one more case was there in digital state. This was the case of glycogenic acanthosis. Actually, this was supposed to be discussed in the last webinar, but I am just showing this. See here, the upper layer of the esophagus is having showing you the vacuolated cytoplasm and thick cytoplasmic border, as if these are the vegetable matter. No inflammation per se. Whenever you get such findings, you have to differentiate whether this is a case of GERD or whether it is a case of just glycogenic acanthosis. And always you will see on endoscopy a white patch. The clinical differential is Candida, but this is the characteristic finding. Absence of inflammation and with so much of the cytoplasmic vacuolation, as if giving the vegetable-like thick cytoplasmic border. So this is the case of glycogenic acanthosis. So these were the cases of digital slide set. This is just list, just to show you the list. So you can again go through this. This is already shared in our Telegram group. This is the list of those diagnoses. So I think we are done with our webinar. Any questions?
So can you tell the name of group of on Telegram?
Sorry.
So can you tell the name of group on Telegram?
Okay. Telegram group. The Telegram group name is Histolan. I don't think you can search that group on Telegram. You can just note my number. You can make me the request. My number is 8788.
8 seconds. So repeat the number.
8788.
8788.
45. 1811. 8788 45 1811.
So sound is not clear.
Anyone has any other question? Related to today's webinar? So I think we can end our webinar today. So thank you everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.